In this second video, we're going to assume that you've already reviewed the first OEE training video, which explains how your team leader should have already personalized your OEE workbooks so that the DV worksheet already contains personalized data for your company's data for your drop-down lists, and how any given OEE workbook might have either a daily events log worksheet or an OEE data worksheet, or the same workbook might have both. So in this video, we're going to continue to follow the help that you'll find on the help worksheet. And we'll just scroll down to where we left off. Okay, so now we're going to assume that we're no longer talking to the team leader who set up the workbooks in the first place, but we're talking to the user who on a daily basis is entering the data into these workbooks. You're going to do it in one of three ways. You're either going to enter your data directly in here, type it right in, or you're going to capture your data on some piece of paper or something, have an assistant type it in to a log worksheet, or you might use automated data collection and import it. One way or the other, you're going to get your data into the log worksheet. And then each log worksheet, the data is entered into three sections. Let's go over to the sample worksheet and look at those three sections now. In the top section is where you're going to enter the good units produced. And when we scroll down, where we find the second section where we enter rejects or scrap or yield or whatever you call it in your company, in the third section where we enter our lost time events. Now we'll come back to each of these sections to go over them in more detail later, but for right now what I want you to get is the general feel for how this is laid out. The data that you enter in these lower two sections, the rejects and the lost time events, get summarized in these blue fields up here in this top section. Remember, in any Systems to Win template, a shaded field means it's a calculated field. So you don't do your data entry there, you do your data entry down below, and it gets summarized in the calculated field up above. So back on the help worksheet, we just saw that on each log worksheet, you've got your top log entries where you enter your good units, your second section where you enter your rejects, and this third section where you enter your lost time events. We'll come back to each of those. Now also notice it says you can click the A anchor links to quickly move between sections. What do we mean? In our sample worksheet, we had this tiny little bit of data, so we could just scroll down to those lower sections. But in the real world, each work center could have literally thousands of rows of data in each section, making scrolling really cumbersome. So let's scroll back up to the top and notice these little A link icons that you'll find in various places in many Systems to Win templates. A stands for an anchor link within the same workbook, and when you click one of those A links, it'll take you directly to the section where you wanted to go. And in each section you'll find similar anchor links so that you can quickly navigate between the sections on this one worksheet. Okay, now let's walk you through typical daily data entry. Okay, we're up at the top of the page of the log worksheet. And if your leaders haven't already done it for you, you better put in the name of your work center. You will only do that once at the top of the page. Like every Systems to Win template, when you click any row or column header, you will get pop-up help. In this case, telling us how we could optionally change the date format by right-clicking the cell and selecting Format Cells. You can choose any date format you want. Notice that it will default to the asterisk date format up at the top, which means that if you're using a European version of Office, it'll automatically have already converted to the European date format. So let's just put in a date and notice that the blue field to the right automatically shows the correct day of the week. Now this next column, shift, is actually optional. If you happen to be working in a work center that only has one shift, you don't need to enter that non-value added data. If you do have multiple shifts, your leaders should have defined your shifts on the DV worksheet, so that all that you have to do is select the correct shift from the drop-down list. Similarly, the product family column is theoretically optional. If your work center only makes one thing, you pretty much know what that is. If not, then again, you select the product or product family that you were working on from the drop-down list. Now, available time is usually calculated by entering your start time and your end time. And the last thing you enter in this top section is your good units produced, which is defined as units produced that meet your quality standards without rework. And it's usually as easy as that. There are a couple situations that are a little bit more complicated, and we have examples of those on the sample worksheet. First, let's click the header for available time and notice that we don't want to be subtracting just about anything. We don't want to subtract meals or breaks. We want punch in, punch out time. Notice in the second column we did something a little bit different. We overrode the available time calculation with just a plug number. We combined two shifts into one. So we didn't put in a start and end time, so it's not a calculated field. Notice the background color of the cell is white now, showing it's no longer a formula. And the shift field is blank because we combined two shifts. Generally a bad idea to combine two shifts. It's better to show your detail, but some people like to just show an entire day's worth of data. You can do it. Much more commonly, within a single shift, you might make more than one thing. So you would have a separate line item for the different product families or products that you made during that one shift. So in that case, you would split the available time for the entire shift between the products or product families that were made during that shift. And then it's your responsibility to make sure that the sum of the available time for those split product families equals the total available time for the entire shift, which is made a whole lot easier by Excel's standard feature, where down here at the bottom, it will always, whenever you highlight more than two cells, Excel will always tell you the sum of your highlighted cells. Isn't it nice to be using a template that uses all the familiarity of the most popular software in business? And that's all that we're going to do in this top section, is record the good units, because the rejects are recorded in the section below and then summarized in these auto-calculated blue fields here. So let's click this anchor link to go to the rejects log section of this worksheet. And then let's just use what we know about Excel to copy this row 38 and paste it into row 39 to give us a quick starting point that we can then edit, because maybe there's more than one reject category for this same date, shift, and product family. And when we highlight those two cells, we notice that the sum for those two cells down here at the bottom of Excel is equal to the sum up here for the single row for this same date, shift, and product family. Some shifts might have a half a dozen rows of rejects, while other shifts don't have any rejects at all. And the last type of data that needs to be recorded on a daily log sheet are the lost time events. You'll make an entry in this section of the log anytime that anything happens that is longer than the downtime threshold defined by your team leaders. In other words, if you just need a quick run to the restroom, that's going to be recorded in performance loss, but anything longer than this downtime threshold needs to be recorded as a line item in this section of the log. And notice that if your downtime category is standby, then the lost time reason codes are either backed up or starved. But if the lost time category for the same line item happened to have been planned downtime, then your pop-up list of lost time reason codes is going to be different. And just like the reject codes section, when we scroll up to the top, the data that we entered down below is summarized in these blue calculated fields in the top section. And notice that in any one of the three sections you can optionally enter user-defined fields or comments. And that's really it. Your typical user will be simply entering data in those three sections of the log worksheet for their work center on a daily basis. And that will provide the data needed for OEE analysis, which will be the topic of the next video.